Hello, welcome to the English Vault. Today we enter the life of Mae Jemison, a woman who carried a childhood dream all the way into orbit. Her story is often introduced with one historic sentence, the first black woman in space. That sentence is true, and it matters. But it is not the whole story. Behind it is a girl in Chicago who loved science and dance, a student who refused to choose between curiosity and creativity, a doctor who served communities far from home, and a NASA astronaut who stepped into a spacecraft carrying more than her own ambition. Mae Jemison's life is not only about reaching space. It is about refusing the small boxes other people build around identity. She did not ask whether a scientist could love art. She did not ask whether a black girl had permission to imagine the stars. She moved as if the question was already answered, and that confidence became part of the path. Chapter 1. A Girl Looking Up. Mae Jemison was born in Decatur, Alabama, in 1956 and grew up in Chicago. Her family valued education, practical strength, and imagination. The city gave her museums, libraries, neighborhoods, and a view of a world larger than the streets around her. As a child, she looked at the sky with serious curiosity. Space was not a distant fantasy to her. It was a place humans were learning to enter, and she wanted to be part of that future. At the same time, she noticed what the world did not show her. Television and textbooks rarely presented black girls as astronauts or scientists. Absence can become a message if nobody challenges it. Mae challenged it early. She decided that not seeing someone like herself in space did not mean she did not belong there. It meant the picture was incomplete. That belief became a quiet engine. Long before NASA called her name, she was already practicing a form of courage, imagining herself inside a future the world had not fully prepared to welcome. The first part of her courage was imaginative. She did not wait for a perfect example before she believed. She let the sky become a mirror for possibility, and that choice made the future feel less like permission and more like preparation. In the 1960s, space travel filled the public imagination. Rockets were not only machines. They were symbols of what a country believed it could become. For Mae, that public imagination was exciting, but also incomplete because the screen did not yet make enough room for girls like her. Her parents did not treat curiosity as a strange habit to be managed. They supported education and encouraged their children to think broadly. That support mattered because ambition grows stronger when a child hears, in many quiet ways, that her questions are welcome. Chapter 2. Science and Dance. Mae loved science, but she also loved dance. She studied ballet, jazz, modern dance, and African dance. For many people, those interests seemed like separate worlds. Science was supposed to be logical. Dance was supposed to be expressive. Mae did not accept that split. The body in motion and the mind in discovery both require discipline, both require attention, rhythm, memory, and courage. She understood that creativity and analysis can strengthen each other. This part of her story matters because many people lose pieces of themselves trying to fit one acceptable role. They become smaller to seem serious. Mae did the opposite. She brought more of herself to every room. When she later became famous, people often focused on the astronaut title. But the dancer was still there. The artist was still there. The doctor, engineer, and teacher were still there too. Her life was teaching a lesson without stopping to announce it. A person can be multidimensional. A dream does not become weaker because it has more than one source of light. That refusal to divide herself would become one of the strongest themes in her life. The world often rewards narrow labels because they are easy to understand. Mae kept choosing a wider identity, even when wider identities are harder to explain. Dance trained another kind of intelligence. It taught timing, balance, awareness, and the courage to be visible. Those skills may seem far from engineering, but astronauts also need body awareness, calm movement, and trust in preparation under pressure. The split between art and science is often a story adults tell to make the world easier to organize. Mae's life pushed back against that story. She showed that precision and expression can belong to the same person without weakening either one. Chapter 3. Stanford at 16. At 16, Mae entered Stanford University. She was young, gifted, and stepping into a demanding environment. Stanford offered opportunity, but also pressure. Intelligence alone was not enough. She had to navigate expectations, race, gender, and the loneliness that can appear when you are one of the few. She studied chemical engineering and African American studies. That combination says a great deal about her mind. She wanted technical skill, but she also wanted cultural understanding. She wanted equations and history in the same life. There were moments when people underestimated her. Some assumed she did not belong in advanced scientific spaces. Others treated confidence from a young black woman as something unusual or uncomfortable. Mae kept moving. She learned, argued, performed, organized, and built a stronger identity. She did not become hard in a narrow way. She became clearer. The Stanford years shaped the astronaut she would later become. Spaceflight requires technical competence, but it also requires psychological strength. Mae was already learning how to hold her place when the room did not automatically make space for her. Stanford also taught her that excellence can be lonely when the room is not built with you in mind. She learned to protect her confidence without closing her curiosity, a balance that would matter in every high-pressure room after that. At Stanford, being young made every challenge sharper. A mistake could feel larger. A dismissive comment could carry more weight. But Mae was not only collecting grades. She was building an inner stance, the ability to remain present without shrinking. Her studies in African and African American history also mattered. They connected personal ambition to collective memory. She was not moving toward the future by forgetting the past. She was carrying history into technical spaces that had too often ignored it. Chapter 4. Medicine and Service. After Stanford, Mae studied medicine at Cornell. Her path widened again. She was not only interested in machines, rockets, or laboratories. She cared about bodies, health, and the practical needs of people. Medical training demanded long hours and emotional endurance. A doctor must learn facts, but also judgment. Behind every diagnosis is a human being with fear, history, family, and hope. Mae traveled and worked in places that expanded her view of the world. She later served as a Peace Corps medical officer in West Africa, caring for volunteers and working with health systems under pressure. That experience mattered deeply. It made her science more human. Space can feel glamorous from the outside, but service teaches humility. It teaches that knowledge should not exist only for prestige. It should solve problems and protect life. By the time she applied to NASA, Mae Jemison was not simply chasing a childhood fantasy. She was bringing engineering, medicine, culture, and global service into one powerful direction. Medicine gave Mae a close view of vulnerability. It is one thing to dream of stars. It is another to sit beside people who need calm judgment and practical care. That combination made her ambition feel grounded rather than distant. As a doctor, Mae learned to make decisions where real people could be affected by calm or panic. This was another form of training for space. The tools were different, but the demand was similar. Stay attentive, respect the facts, and remember the human stakes. Her Peace Corps work in West Africa also deepened her sense of global connection. Space can make Earth look borderless, but service can teach that truth before a person ever leaves the ground. Chapter 5. NASA After Tragedy. Mae first applied to NASA in the 1980s, but the space program was shaken by the Challenger disaster in 1986. The tragedy reminded the world that exploration is not a clean adventure. It carries risk, grief, and responsibility. After NASA reopened astronaut selection, Mae applied again. In 1987, she was chosen as an astronaut candidate. The dream moved from imagination into training schedules, technical systems, and physical preparation. Becoming an astronaut is not only about bravery, it is about procedure. It is about teamwork, engineering discipline, emergency readiness, and the ability to stay calm when many systems depend on human attention. Mae entered NASA with the full weight of history around her. She knew she was not only representing herself, but representation can be heavy if the world treats one person as proof for everyone else. She carried that pressure with grace and sharp intelligence. She knew the mission mattered, but she also knew she was more than a symbol. She was a trained professional preparing to do difficult work. The shadow of Challenger made the path more serious. It reminded every astronaut candidate that exploration is not a performance of fearlessness. It is a disciplined agreement to face risk with preparation, teamwork, and respect. NASA training placed Mae inside a culture of simulation and repetition. Astronauts practice emergencies before they happen. They learn systems until the strange becomes familiar. They prepare because in space, confidence without preparation is not courage, it is danger. She entered that training not as a visitor to history, but as a professional with responsibilities. The cameras might focus on the milestone, but the mission required competence. The shuttle did not fly on symbolism. It flew on engineering, teamwork, and trust. The name Endeavour itself carried meaning. It suggested effort, trial, and the willingness to attempt something difficult. For Mae, the mission name almost matched the shape of the whole journey. A long endeavor from childhood imagination to professional responsibility. Chapter 6. Endeavour. In September 1992, Mae Jemison flew aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour on mission STS-47. The shuttle carried a Space Lab module and a crew working on scientific experiments in life sciences and material sciences. When Endeavour launched, Mae became the first Black woman to travel into space. That fact entered history immediately. But inside the mission, history had to share space with checklists, experiments, timing, and teamwork. In orbit, the Earth looks different. Borders disappear from view. The planet becomes a blue and white hole, fragile and bright. Astronauts often speak about that perspective because it changes the emotional scale of human problems. Mae conducted experiments and fulfilled her role as a mission specialist. She also carried symbols of heritage and possibility, including items connected to African American history and global culture. The dream had reached orbit, but not as magic. It reached orbit through years of study, applications, training, rejection, return, discipline, and the refusal to let imagination remain only imagination. Launch Day compressed many histories into one moment. A child from Chicago, a doctor from Cornell, a Peace Corps medical officer, a dancer, a scientist, and a Black woman carrying generations of excluded dreams all rose together in the same spacecraft. During STS-47, the crew worked on experiments connected to the effects of microgravity. That detail is important because spaceflight is not only a spectacular view. It is a laboratory where the body, materials, and living systems can be studied from a new angle. Mae also understood the power of carrying culture into space. Symbols matter when they connect private achievement to public memory. They tell people watching from Earth that exploration does not belong to only one tradition or one kind of face. Chapter 7. More Than a First. After the mission, many people remembered Mae Jemison as the first. Being first is powerful, but it can also become a cage. A first can be celebrated so loudly that the full person disappears behind the milestone. Mae resisted that reduction. She spoke about science education, technology, art, and the future of human possibility. She wanted young people to understand that space was connected to Earth and that discovery was connected to responsibility. She left NASA in 1993 and built new work beyond the agency. Some people might have expected her to remain inside one title forever. Instead, she kept expanding. That choice reveals something important about ambition. Reaching a dream does not mean the dream owns the rest of your life. Sometimes achievement becomes a platform for new questions. Mae's story asks us to honor milestones without freezing people inside them. She was first, yes. She was also a doctor, engineer, dancer, entrepreneur, educator, and advocate for futures that include more minds at the table. After orbit, the question changed. It was no longer only can she get there. It became, what should the achievement do for others? Mae understood that a milestone becomes more powerful when it opens imagination beyond the person who reached it. After NASA, Mae could have remained only a celebrated astronaut in public memory. Instead, she kept working on education, technology, and long-range thinking. She seemed less interested in being admired from a distance than in helping more people participate. That choice makes her story especially useful for anyone building a life after a major success. The question is not only how do I reach the goal? The next question is, what does the goal make possible now? She also insisted that science should feel accessible without becoming shallow. Wonder can invite people in, but discipline helps them stay. Mae's public voice carried both excitement about possibility and respect for the work required to make possibility real. Chapter 8. Teaching the Future. Mae founded organizations and projects focused on science, literacy, technology, and the future of humanity. She became involved in conversations about long-term space travel and the possibility of interstellar thinking. Her work after NASA carried the same pattern as her childhood. Do not shrink the question. If humans could reach orbit, what else could they learn? If children could see themselves in science, what future inventions might become possible? She often emphasized that science is not separate from society. Technology reflects human choices. Education reflects who we believe deserves opportunity. Exploration reflects what we are brave enough to imagine together. This is why her biography works so well as an inspirational story. It does not end at the launch. It continues through the responsibility to widen the door for others. Mae Jemison did not only break a barrier, she challenged the habit of building barriers in the first place. Her life keeps asking a bigger question. Who has been missing from the future because nobody invited them to imagine it? Her public work kept returning to young people because the future is not built only in laboratories. It is also built in classrooms, family conversations, small encouragements, and the moment a child realizes that curiosity can belong to them. Her advocacy carried a generous challenge. She wanted society to stop wasting talent by limiting imagination early. Every child discouraged from science is not only a personal loss, it is a loss for the future problems that child might have helped solve. The future needs engineers who understand people, doctors who understand systems, artists who understand technology, and leaders who understand history. Mae Jemison's life pointed toward that kind of future before it became a popular slogan. That is why representation is not cosmetic. It changes the mental map. When a child sees someone unexpected in a place of achievement, the border around that child's own future can move outward. Chapter 9. The Meaning of Orbit. Orbit is a scientific word, but in Mae's story it also becomes a symbol. To enter orbit is to move beyond the usual ground, to see from another angle, to understand that perspective can change identity. For the child who watched space missions and wondered why no one on the screen looked like her, orbit meant proof. It meant the image had changed. It meant a girl somewhere could look up and see not only stars, but a path. Still, Mae's deeper message is not that everyone must become an astronaut. It is that people should not let inherited limits decide the size of their imagination. The work may be space, medicine, art, teaching, engineering, or something not yet named. Her courage was not loud in a dramatic way. It was steady. It appeared in applications, classrooms, laboratories, rehearsals, training, service, and public advocacy. It appeared in the decision to remain whole. When we say Mae Jemison reached orbit, we are also saying that possibility reached another generation. The shuttle returned to Earth, but the image stayed in the minds of people who needed it. That is why the image of Mae Jemison in space still carries force. It is not only about height, speed, or technology. It is about a human being refusing a narrow story and proving that the future becomes richer when more kinds of people help design it. The importance of this achievement is emotional as well as historical. A barrier breaks in public, but it is prepared in private by study, family support, rejection, discipline, and the decision to try again after disappointment. Mae's story has unusual warmth because it is not a cold achievement story about one title. It is a story about range. It shows that technical excellence can live beside art, service, humor, cultural memory, and public responsibility. The dream did not end when Endeavour landed. In some ways, landing made the work bigger. A spacecraft can return to Earth, but a changed image keeps traveling through classrooms, posters, interviews, and private dreams. For anyone who has ever felt too complicated for one label, her life offers permission to stay whole. The world may ask for a simple answer, but a life can be richer than a simple answer. In this way, orbit becomes more than a destination. It becomes a change in viewpoint. From above, Earth looks connected. From inside Mae's story, identity looks connected too. Not a set of boxes fighting one another, but a constellation. Her achievement did not remove every barrier for the people who came after her. No single first can do that. But a first can weaken the old story. It can make the next attempt less lonely, and the next dream easier to name. The most memorable part of her legacy may be this invitation to fullness. Do not cut away your music to prove your math. Do not hide your history to enter the laboratory. Do not make yourself smaller to look qualified. Her story keeps its power because it feels both extraordinary and practical. It says the sky matters, but so do classrooms, parents, mentors, applications, second attempts, and the daily decision to keep preparing. Chapter 10. Bring Your Whole Self. Mae Jemison's life gives us a strong final image: a scientist who dances, a doctor who flies, an astronaut who teaches, a public figure who refuses to be flattened into one label. She reminds us that excellence is not always about cutting away every part of yourself except one. Sometimes excellence comes from integration. The different parts of a life can speak to one another. They can make the work wiser, warmer, and more original. Her story is especially powerful because it joins personal confidence with public meaning. She did not reach space only for herself. Her achievement changed what other people could picture. The dream that reached orbit began long before launch day. It began when a child looked at a world that seemed incomplete and decided not to accept that incompleteness as truth. So carry this from Mae Jemison's story. If the room is missing someone like you, that absence is not a final answer. It may be the beginning of your invitation to build a wider room. If this story helped you imagine your own future with more courage, stay with the English Vault. Listen again, notice the words, and ask yourself one question today. What part of you have you been leaving outside the door when it was meant to travel with you?